I always wonder what it's like to have a fur coat and living in the tropics. Because these guys, just walk around and lie down all day. With fur coats on. I wonder what it's like. These are the things that go through my head. What else goes through my head is the way to stand out in crowded marketplaces. And I'll cut to the chase, and that's having a unique mechanism. So I'm doing I'll just show you the document. I'm doing training for one of my friends' communities in 24 hours. And I'm just updating and refining the daily client machine, which is a mechanism that we use to generate leads and customers. So I'm just adding some stuff that we've discovered in the last 90 days because I do what I teach and teach what I do. That means the real-time insights from the ads we're running, the funnels we're running, etc., are really relevant. And there are a lot of people selling what I sell. There are a lot of people doing what I do. Most of them aren't as good as me because I've been doing it for a lot longer. But there's still a lot of people and there's a lot of noise. And that is the nature of marketplaces. The barriers to entry are pretty low these days. Anyone can go online and say they're an expert in this and they're good at this. And they can lie and say they're making this much money or they do this many things or whatever. There's just a lot of noise. And standing out in marketplaces, especially, make money, get a better body, get a better relationship, of which there's thousands of people in each category, selling their best version of themselves, is really difficult unless you have a unique mechanism. And a unique mechanism is a very simple but kind of underappreciated context. So if I use the example of the daily client machine, that is a mechanism that I use to generate leads. What is it? Well, it's a dual mode funnel, which caters to insight buyers with a VSL and a demonstration video. And it caters to info buyers, which, digital products. I sell a $9 product, a $29 product, a $99 product, etc., etc. And brought together, it is the most efficient funnel anyone can run because it uses the same IP in two different ways to cater to two different buying types and ultimately allows us to use the people who aren't going to buy from us or the people who are slow to buy to fund the further acquisition of people who are going to buy quickly. In a nutshell, it helps us find clients much more quickly, and it also makes our advertising and marketing spend go a lot further because we're monetizing it and getting revenue back at the same time. And if we break apart my unique mechanism, the daily client machine, which I've used for years, then I invented none of the individual components of it. I didn't invent low ticket products. I didn't invent self-liquidating offers. I didn't invent VSLs. I didn't invent nurture sequences, deadlines, or any of that. All of those, came before me, and people refined those and did those, and we're all standing on the shoulder of the giants. But I've combined it in a unique way, which is unique to me, unique to the way I execute it, and unique to the way that I teach and give to my clients as well. And that means that it's more than a sum of its parts because I've got it working extremely well for me, and I've helped, a couple of thousand other people do it as well. So that means that unique mechanism has a ton of value in the marketplace, and by its nature is unique to me because, well, I own the IP, I own the brand, and I put it out there, and it's an effective way of bundling and packaging things that work really well, but I didn't necessarily invent myself, but I've refined along the way. And unique mechanisms are kind of like sometimes overdone, but in many cases underappreciated, because they're a really, really critical way to stand out in crowded marketplaces by having a unique way that you do certain things that are proven and established. And unique mechanisms can take many, many forms. They can take, a form like I have, which is, taking things that work and packaging them up and bundling them, improving them, and making them work even better than they did originally. Or they could be completely unique and highly, highly innovative, and unique to you and very difficult for people or impossible for people to replicate or copy. And that's the whole point of this stuff, that owning an idea and owning, an idea in someone's head and owning that position in someone's head, is kind of marketing and positioning 101. And a unique mechanism does that because it stands alongside your own personal brand. And in many cases, some people's personal brands are smaller than the unique mechanisms they've developed. And the unique mechanism is actually, the primary thing that attracts people in, but the person who developed it, the person who sells it, ultimately profits from it. So these days, I would say every single market is crowded and there's lots of people clamoring and shouting. And it's very difficult for people to differentiate, and it's very difficult for people to decipher, who the high quality operators are and who the trustworthy operators are. The first step is having a unique mechanism and, branding it and packaging in a way that's simple for people to understand. The second component is demonstrating it, that it actually works and how it works for you, how it works for the people that you've helped use it. And thirdly is giving access to it. I do it in two ways. I have, what is a traditional VSL where people watch and unpacks it and shows how it works. And then I have products where people actually get some components of it. They get the landing pages, they get all the things to install so they can actually use it. As someone much smarter than me before me said, the easiest way to prove that you can help people is by actually helping them and letting them buy things for, a relatively modest, dollar and time investment is an excellent way to do that. So unique mechanisms are, one of those things that lots of people will talk about, yet very few embrace and very few actually execute, in a complete way. But especially in crowded marketplaces, they can be the difference between success and failure, because they're the difference between someone noticing you and saying you're different and understanding and appreciating you're different, versus you just being one of the pack and having to compete on things you don't want to compete with, like price. So I love them. They've been a staple of my creation, my execution, my marketing for years, and they're super useful. And they've never been more relevant than they are today, right where we are in 2025.